Let's see what happens.
Good evening. That wasn't so bad. Felt like Johnny Carson coming out there for a second.
Yeah.
You guys are in for a treat. For those, once again, I'm Sal Cincione from Premier Radio Networks in New York. We did this last year. It's called Storytellers. Guys are gonna come out. We're gonna do a little chatting. There's some instruments up here. God willing, everything will go great. They'll get in the mood. Last year they broke out some tremendous surprises, so we're hoping for the best again this year. And I think, like I said, it's gonna be a special night. So, let's get them out here. From the Moody Blues, Justin Hayward, John Lodge, and Grant Edge, the Moody Blues.
I remember this, yeah. I hope they hear it.
Neither have we.
Let's go. Any changes, I promise you.
So,
Did you do 20 minutes of that?
Oh, I don't know. There we go, disco. Do we start?
yes, we can start. So, welcome. Everything going okay? All three have a nice Friday afternoon on the cruise?
Well, I personally was sitting down scared stiff of what we're doing right now. I don't know why. Oh, this one.
This will be fun. We'll have a good time.
And we've been scared stiff as well.
So, as you know, the theme of the cruise is Return to the Isle of Wight. It was funny, there was an interviewer who was talking to Justin a couple of months ago, and he was under the impression that we would be sailing around the Isle of Wight, but we're not. It's a lot warmer here, from what I understand. But it was a legendary festival. When it comes to festivals, the three probably biggest, Monterey started all, Woodstock, those were the two for us in the States, and then of course Isle of Wight for you folks in the UK. And you were there in '69 and 1970, the 1970 lineup, legendary, The Doors, the Moody Blues, Jimi Hendrix, Lighthouse, who we know, the Who were on the bill, so it went on and on, just great performers. Everyone has different memories of those, of that show, I'm sure, so Justin, I'll start with you. When I say Isle of Wight, what comes to mind? And
well, as you say that we did there was three, I think, weren't there? 69, 17, was there? No, maybe
68, 69, 70, and then it stopped for like 22 years, I believe.
Yeah, 32 years, yeah. So the best one, the best organized was the same brothers, the Falk brothers, and they were, and that was the 69 one. And that was really well organized, I remember that. And Dylan, I remember seeing Dylan. And there was a lot of, the Beatles came, except for there was George. George was already there, I think, with Dylan. And we were on the same day, on the last day as Dylan. And there was a lot of hoi polloi, you know, and celebs, music business. So Liz Taylor and Richard Burton were there. So that's amazing, that's the 69. But it was nowhere near the size of this 1971, which I don't know even if anybody knows. I mean, I'm not saying that nobody knows the kind of numbers that were there. It's, what do you think?
They estimated between 600,000 and 700,000, saying it's just about the largest festival ever to take place.
I remember that I had, my memory of the members at the beginning of it was that I didn't sleep because we were supposed to be on like midday, and so as far as I remember, I just got up and got in a minivan, and I think we were with Tom Paxton, although I'm not sure, that might have been the year before because he had the same agent. He had Colin Berlin and Barry Clayman. But got up very early and we went off in the minivan, and our crew was already there, and so we were ready to go on from about 11 or 12 o'clock on the island. Yeah.
And but you did go on later in the afternoon as the Murray Lerner film Isle of Moody Blues Threshold of a Dream shows, and you I guess it was late in the afternoon and into twilight and then the evening.
Yeah, you still talking to me? Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, we did. Like I said, we were supposed to go on early, but lots of other people. It was obvious that it was by that Sunday it was getting a bit of a mess because I think the fact was they'd moved the site. I think the local residents of the Isle of Wight weren't really keen by it. After 700,000 people there. And so the only site that they could get was right next to a big hill. So it turned into a free festival, and by the time the Sunday had come along, the fence was down and security had pretty much given up out the front and in the public areas. And our set was pushed right back, and I think Donovan was on the same day. I remember seeing Donovan, and then yeah, there was a lot of stuff happening backstage. We were after Pentangle.
Yeah.
Free on Sundays.
I think we actually said to the organisers, this is total chaos. So we'll go on just as the sun sets. So we sort of booked our own little time and said, well, perhaps you should put everyone else around us, see what happens. Well, someone had to make a decision.
I know I didn't see Leonard Cohen. The other thing is that we left when Jimmy was on. And that was, he must have died not long after that. That was the last time I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks after he died in September, that was in August.
Oh yeah, it was the end of August.
Yeah, because we left from the Isle of Wight festivals for an American tour.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy died while we were on tour.
I remember driving out in that minivan, knackered and stoned, and listening to Jimmy and thinking there's some problem with his amps or something. There was an issue.
Why did so many people attend it? Was it because of the word of mouth from the previous two festivals? They didn't obviously estimate that many people, or did they, based on what happened?
No.
Also happened at Woodstock.
No, they were expecting about 200,000.
Yeah, they had 150 in '69. 150,000.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
a lot.
I mean, the population of the island is less than 100,000.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how they got them all over there on the ferries. Just amazing they got that number of people over there.
I remember on the 69 one, I can't remember the 70 one, no, yeah, the 69 one, there was a thing called the hovercraft. I don't know if anyone knows about the hovercraft. And that was actually going to the Isle of Wight. So Justin and I actually went on that for the concert, for the festival. So experience, it was great. Vibrated away all the way over there. I thought I was cutting the lawn.
And John, for you, a memory of that festival in 1970, taking the stage, seeing just a sea of humanity.
Yeah, it was amazing because as Justin was saying, it was against the hill and there was a wooden fence all the way around. And there was this whole sort of surge of people going, free festivals, music's free. And they eventually on the Sunday knocked all the fences down and everybody came in, so Justin was saying, it became really a free festival as well. And that was amazing to see all these people coming in from the far side because it was still daylight and you could see everything. And it was amazing to think that so many people had come from all over the world, and particularly at that time, we forget, there was a thing called the Iron Curtain, which separated Europe. And there were so many people who came from behind the Iron Curtain to come to the concert because they'd never had the opportunity to see any live acts, to hear the music, you know, particularly on American Forces Network, and never see the artists. But this was their opportunity. And I think that, to me, I always think 1970, that festival actually started to actually bring the wall down. That's where because
And Graham, for you, Isle of Wight, what comes to mind?
Well, two things really. John just talking about the wall, the festival fence coming down, reminded me, I think all us three were away or busy or doing something, but Ray had to field a whole bunch of comments because he mentioned that we probably weren't going to get paid. And we're standing backstage, and you know, it's the third day of the festival, and as John said, they were sort of yelling about free music and everything should be free, and the wall come down. And Ray turned around to me and said, Ricky Parr, that's the promoter, the two of them, the Parr brothers, Ricky Parr. Ray leaned over to me and says, that's it, Ricky Parr will say, you never got any money and we won't get paid. And of course we didn't. I didn't get paid for any of them, no. Not that it mattered. And my other recollection is a very strange and focused one. There was backstage, it was before we went on, so it was still light in the afternoon, and there was this young lad, probably the same age as I was then, early 20s, and he was having a bad trip, and it was a really bad one, and he was on the floor up against this sort of canvas wall of the tent on the outside, and he was really not handling things too well. And there was this British policeman. Now the police on the island had been fantastic. They weren't busting anybody, they were just there to keep the peace and keep everything smooth and cool, and they were really great. And there was this very young policeman, probably the same age, kneeling with this guy, trying to keep him calm and keep him together, and you know, bring him or keep him in reality. And it was doing okay, but the kid was freaking out, and these cops suddenly had an idea, and he was one of these canine cops. And he went and got the dog, and as he's bringing the dog over, I'm thinking, I ain't at all sure this is a good idea. Great big German shepherd, and this kid freaking out. And we brought him up, and the kid was really like this for a while, but the cop started stroking the dog's head, and the dog was nice, and then he got the kid to touch it, and the dog did bring him round. And after about 15 minutes, and I thought, well done.
Did you know at the time, based on what had happened, let's say with Woodstock the year before, that you now were part of history on the European side that day?
No,
I don't think so.
Just doing a gig that had to be done. Really. It wasn't an easy. It was a very awkward, difficult kind of gig. No, I don't think so. But then I'm not even sure whether we even thought about it at the time. But on some posters, we're on the Woodstock posters, and we were booked for that. We didn't do that. We did a big left-wing socialist festival in Paris. The same weekend, and
We didn't have a
character now,
socialist, yeah.
But we had more empathy with the French Republic then, and I think we just went there instead, and we weren't that reliable at that time. I've got one specific. Like Graham, it's come to me. I had a focus memory, and I went into the Farr brothers were announcing it. It was the Falk brothers who were putting the whole thing on. The Farr brothers were the son of Tommy Farr and the boxer, and they took the blame. but I think they were left holding the
empty bag.
purse. Yeah. But I went into their porter cabin thing. We were okay. We had a porter cabin thing, but I went into their promoter's office and to see at about 3 o'clock, it must have been in the afternoon, what on earth time we were going to go on, because we were already 3 hours late. And as I walked through the door, there was 2 guys from Free, not Paul Kossoff, and a roadie, and they were holding one of the brothers up with his feet dangling up. And they were just going through his pockets, and they said, "We're not fucking going on, so give me some money." And they just took their money. So, probably a bad time. Fortunately, a bad moment. And of course, we didn't go on, as John said, until, well, when did you say it was? The end of August? So it must have been 8 or 9 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah, 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
We had to get the last ferry back home, that's why we left. Else we'd have to stay another night in the van.
The other thing I remember from which wouldn't be unusual, the other thing I remember was that I think Greg got a little upset, and you might not remember this, and I'm not saying anything derogatory, but I did come back into that porter cabin after wandering around outside, and an empty glass whizzed past my ear. It was thrown but not at me, at the wall. And smashed on the wall. And I think Graham was getting a little bit upset by that. And you can see that on stage as well. Before we went on, you can see that in his performance. Which was still great, but he was a little bit upset.
The other, I was doing an interview not too long ago about the Isle of Wight, and the Isle of Wight has become legendary for lots and lots and lots of things. And the interviewer said to me, how much was smoking going on backstage? Because the legend is that a fire caught in the dressing rooms, and the dressing rooms were on fire, and everyone was running around backstage, and the fire brigade were caught him. And I thought, well, I can't really remember that, but back home I do have a lot of memorabilia from those times, so I thought I'll just read up exactly what happened. And I read about this, and it wasn't the days of Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's at the festivals. It was the Women's Voluntary Service, and they were cooking. And in actual fact, what happened? The chick fan caught on fire, so the legend died.
Oh, one of the cruisers here sent in the questions for the Q&A this afternoon. I didn't get to it, but I wrote it down for the one here tonight. I think it was a gentleman. He wanted to know what the largest joint you saw at the Isle of Wight Festival backstage.
I think it was the Bland, wasn't it?
Colorado land.
So,
well, we used to celebrate 21st birthdays, didn't we?
With the 21 incher, yeah.
21 skin, yeah. So that's that.
moving right along.
That means you can't get into America now.
So, years later, about I can't really see it well. It's either 2006 or 2008, Justin.
Yep.
But you're contacted by Murray Lerner,
Yep.
an award-winning filmmaker who, by the way, was on the ship but had to leave for personal reasons, so he had to disembark yesterday in Nassau. So sadly, he's not here with us. But so you thought there's this legendary show that we did, in the annals of rock and roll history, never to be seen or heard again. And here's Murray in his 9th Avenue, New York City office, where the Academy Award sits on his desk, and he's got the film
Yeah.
and the soundtrack.
Yes. Well, first of all, you know, people say, what comes first, the music or the lyrics? Well, the phone call comes first. So the phone call was actually from June, our bookkeeper, and she'd been contacted by Eagle Rock, who had the rights to that whole, to Murray's, all the sections of Murray's films. Murray Lerner did, what's it called, Portrait to Love? Or
Message to Love.
A Message to Love, the original film about the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, right here, the Message to Love Isle of Wight Festival.
So he'd done that, and then when she contacted us, I called June and said, there's one condition, that it's the usual one, that I do that I mix the sound, because I knew that it was, you know, it could be done very badly, and I can't say that I remembered the event or the sound of it. So, and then I had the phone call from Murray. That they agreed to that. They said, yeah, fine, you know, and we fixed a budget, and they paid the studio. I didn't get paid, but they paid all the studio costs, and they were great. And they could Eagle Rock, and then I had a phone call from Murray, and who's a charming gentleman, you know, as you know, he's a lovely man. And as you say, Academy Award winner. And I said, now how many, what kind of format is it on? And he said, okay, Justin, it's on 6 tracks. And one of those is a code. So it's on 5 tracks. So I was like, what the hell? So, first of all, we had to get a machine to be able to play it. And we worked out that if you align the heads on an 8-track machine, you could do it, you know. And so when we got the tape, first thing we did was bake it. You know that?
Yeah, to preserve it, yes.
Yeah. And then put it onto the digital format, and then put that to one side and forget about it. And then listen to it, actually I was really worried before I turned up at the studio, but when I turned up at the studio and listened to it, fortunately, I'm going to give credit to Graham for once in my life. For being a drummer for once in my life. But I'm going to give Graham all the credit, because the drums, when you do a live recording, are on everything, on every vocal mic, and actually the sound of the drums is often what coming through the vocal mics. And Graham's playing was absolutely great. And I knew mine wasn't that great because I was tired and and there was a couple of other sound issues that the person who was doing the sound had assumed that Ray was going to be singing the first song, which was Gypsy. So they didn't. I don't know whether me and John were sharing a mic. We might have been sharing a mic, but he didn't have my mic up at all, or our mic, and just a little bit. So I had to isolate my own voice and put that in the right place, because it was the first song was Gypsy. And even Murray had the camera over there, so we had to kind of cheat and take a bit from the second time round